Hey everybody, this is Blake here, and welcome to my review of Interstellar. So, I was going to film this yesterday, but I realized that I had very little to say, which usually means that I have way too much to say and I just can't really organize my thoughts. So I ended up typing up a bunch of notes, and I probably could do a full written review just based on my notes. So this is going to be a very interesting video. So going into Interstellar, I really liked the marketing campaign for this movie. Like, the very first trailer did absolutely nothing for me, but the more and more I saw it, I began to respect how Interstellar wasn't, showing all of the money shots. It was just, giving us the setup that the planet is dying and that he's going to have to go into space to find a new place for humanity to live. But they don't really show a whole lot of what's going on in those space sequences, whereas, with the majority of, special effect heavy, I don't want to say action films, but blockbusters, they usually want to show off a lot of the content in order to get us excited, but this film got me excited by not showing the content. Let our imaginations run wild, and most films don't really do that anymore, so I really respected that. And I was dismayed when the reviews started coming in, though, because even though it seemed like everyone was respectfully positive, there was something very unenthusiastic about the reception. There are two camps of people. You have the detractors who were very disappointed with the movie. They thought it was boring, overly long, confusing, emotionally manipulative. They thought the dialogue was really cheesy and stale. And they might concede that it's not necessarily a bad movie, it's just nowhere near as good as they wanted it to be. They expect a lot more from Christopher Nolan and everybody else involved. On the other hand, you have the fans who pretty much believe the total opposite. They thought it was very emotionally moving, the spectacle was amazing, the storyline was powerful. Yeah, it might be a bit too long, but they found it to be an overall very compelling movie that made them think and feel. At the absolute least, I'd say that it didn't get as much hate as Transcendence did, but at the same time it's not getting as much love as, Memento or The Dark Knight did. And usually in those cases I am torn in the middle, because I see both sides of the coin. I liked Interstellar. I thought it was a good movie, not a great movie, and I think there's nothing wrong with just settling with good, but I will admit that I was disappointed, and I think even a lot of the fans in general expected a little bit more out of it, such as myself, even if I overall was satisfied. I believe it's going to suffer from a Prometheus-like backlash, in that our expectations were so high that the fact that the film didn't meet them is going to make it seem worse in retrospect. When you actually consider Prometheus, at first people were positive, even if everybody agreed that it was a little disappointing, but over time it seems like the hatred that the detractors feel has sort of overcome the love that the fans feel for that movie, and I think Interstellar is going to go through something similar. So let's begin and see if I can deliver a coherent review despite my many, many notes. I will agree that this film is way too long. I was going to say a bit too long, but no, I think they could have easily cut out 30 minutes and it would have been better. There's just too much story. There are too many scenes that I felt didn't really add anything to the overarching plot, and it's not that these scenes are bad, mind you. For example, there's this confrontation with Matthew McConaughey's character and his kids' teachers or principal and whatever. It's a parent-teacher conference, and they do introduce a few interesting aspects of this world, but I still felt that they could have easily taken that out and the movie would have lost nothing. Now, I will concede that I liked the scene in itself. I thought it had a pretty funny payoff, but it just, for a film that's pushing the 3 hour mark, you have to start, selecting what to keep and what to get rid of, and I think that would have been something they could have easily gotten rid of. The news clips they keep showing that also, help set up this world, like, there is a reason for that, and I understand why they were included, but I still thought that they could have easily been taken out, and I wouldn't have minded. There's this backstory where Matthew McConaughey's character, he's an astronaut, or he's the only one who knows how to fly a space shuttle. But he was in some sort of accident that, sort of, well, not just ended that, but kind of scarred him emotionally. They never really went anywhere with that, and I don't know why they bothered, because they could have easily just said, okay, well, he was trained, to fly a space shuttle, but then NASA was pretty much dismantled, so, he was left on the dirt, and, that's where, his problem lies. But instead they have that backstory that, once again, after being established, never really shows up again. I thought a lot of scenes were just stretched out beyond their necessary time limit. Like, at first, I was feeling it. I was in awe, just as, like, the film wanted me to be. And I thought, the scenes were very emotional and touching and sad. But then it's just like they kept going, and I eventually started to get impatient. Usually with long movies, I only start to lose patience with them in regards to pacing towards the ending. So, like, The Return of the King. I wasn't bored up until the last 30 minutes when that film never seemed to freaking want to end. But in this case, it was, like, spread all throughout. Or even during the first act, I was like, okay, come on, can we please move things along? And then the second act, same thing. The third act, same thing. It never really piled anywhere, which I guess is a good thing, because I was engaged during the ending, but I still thought that this film was a bit awkwardly paced. Certain story threads weren't explored enough, like the brother starts to become unhinged during the ending. I don't really get why they chose to do that, because there was already enough suspense that him suddenly becoming a threat to his sister just seemed unnecessary and tacked on, and I didn't feel that. I mean, if they spent more time with that character and focused on his transformation, then I could have bought it. But instead, it's just like out of nowhere he starts becoming violent and aggressive, and I thought that was kind of poorly handled. However, I will say this, people call this movie emotionally manipulative. I don't think that's a bad thing. For me, the only time when it becomes a problem is when the film doesn't provide the right context or a justification for us to care. So, for example, I recently watched Identity Thief with Melissa McCarthy. She's a total bitch of a character, you really hate her, but then out of nowhere she starts crying and we're supposed to feel sorry for her. That, to me, is emotional manipulation done wrong, and that pisses me off. Here, the film always did provide a context for me to care. So, like, even in the case of, the brother becoming more unhinged, I felt something there, because it's part of the stakes that this movie is really, exploiting. We know why Matthew McConaughey is doing what he's doing. It's for his kids. He's doing it to save him. But unfortunately, his absence, as a result of this, leads to some, personal problems for his children. And in a lot of ways, it's responsible for his son kind of going crazy. So that meant something to me. So even though I will say that, yeah, Christopher Nolan is manipulating us emotionally, it's done in a way that I feel, directors are supposed to manipulate us emotionally. So yeah, I generally did feel whatever the movie wanted me to feel in regards to the characters and the relationships. I always cared about what was going on, even if I was criticizing the movie, for not exploring certain aspects enough, or, leaving in maybe the remnants of discarded subplots that were lost on the editing room floor. So, Oh yeah, I did think that the film was a bit too talky. I didn't understand the scientific jargon half of the time, and I thought, yeah, the whole love transcends all speech was corny, but it didn't bother me like it bothered a lot of people. And in the case of, me not understanding a lot of it was, I think, because the audio was messed up in my theater. It's not helped that I don't have very good hearing, so I think if I watched it with subtitles, I'd follow up much more smoothly. But I guess I do understand the point, but it didn't bother me like it bothered many. Now, what's next? I really did enjoy this film on a visual level. The special effects were flawless. Christopher Nolan really does a good job at balancing practical and computer-generated effects, to the point where you really can't tell which is which at times. And I thought the designs of these various planets and vehicles and machines, there was something about them that was grounded in reality, but at the same time it's not boringly realistic. I really liked how the various planets kind of resembled ours in parts, but it was different. And I thought the robot was really cool too. I liked how the robot had a personality. The design was very much reference to the monolith from 2001: A Space Odyssey, but the way it moved I thought was pretty creative and interesting. And so in terms of spectacle, I thought it was subdued in the right ways, but when it wanted to go all out, yeah, it was breathtaking. It was a beautiful experience to behold. And even though I think it's a mistake to try to be the next 2001: A Space Odyssey, because even though I don't like 2001: A Space Odyssey, that film is perfect on a visual level, and I don't think Interstellar is quite on par with it on that level. But I was thinking, I think I should have watched this on IMAX. I think it would have been a much grander experience, because Christopher Nolan does know how to work the audience. When he wants you to feel amazed, when he wants to take your breath away and give that sense of awe, this film definitely succeeded. And then I like how the finale goes totally batshit insane, much like 2001: A Space Odyssey did, but it's not necessarily just ripping off 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's a very different, unique kind of ending, which, yeah, it's definitely cheesy in parts, and yeah, how the characters come to certain conclusions is very contrived, but still, it was different and strange enough that I liked it, and it provided plenty of cool visuals, while once again leaving an emotional impact on me. God, what else can I say? There's a lot of intense scenarios the characters find themselves in. Even though this film is long, it never, it didn't. You don't have to wait too long before the action really starts. I was actually surprised how quickly he got into space. I figured there'd be some sort of training sequence where he, that's where he confronts his demons in regards to his past, but it just immediately goes from, him saying goodbye to his kids to him taking off. And once they get to the planets, it's like everything that can go wrong will go wrong. And I felt it, and I thought the score was pretty amazing too. I loved how there's like this tick-tock sort of motif in regards to the music, which really fits because time is very much an enemy. The closer they get to like the black hole, the time slows down for them, so 1 hour is like 7 years on Earth, and considering, the Earth's going to die sooner or later, or sooner more than later, you really feel like there's a lot on the line, and I thought that was a very creative way to generate suspense. So there's a lot of nail-biting moments, not just because the scenarios where the characters are in danger are really intense, but because the more time they spend on this, the more futile their mission seems. And I also liked the cast in general. Matthew McConaughey is great. I did think his daughter had a few off moments. The actress who, when she's a kid, but she's okay. I like there were some surprise cameos. Like I don't even want to spoil them, but there are a few big names who appear whom I was not expecting to appear. And I liked what they did with those characters, as predictable as it seems. And there's just some scenes where, even though the characters, once again, they're underexplored, what they went through matters. Like when they encounter another person on their quest, or, who went with them, when they realize that because of the time difference, that 20 years passed for this character, or maybe it wasn't that long, I don't really remember. But that sudden realization leads to some very emotional moments. So even though, yeah, it seems like I'm criticizing a lot about the script, there are, a lot of moments where it gives the actors a lot of room to act, and once again, I felt something. So I liked this movie, but I don't want to call it great. I'd say it's definitely worth watching in the theaters, maybe even IMAX if you have the money. I don't really want to say go see it in IMAX because I didn't do so, but I kind of wish I did. Don't expect a great movie, though. Expect a good movie. If you expect something fantastic and amazing, I think you're only going to set yourself up for disappointment. But if you think that you're going to see a good movie and it ends up being a great experience for you, then good job. I envy you. But I think just play it safe, expect a good movie, and if you get anything more than that, be happy. So I did not do a written review for this. I did a written review for Halloween 6, the producer's cut. My next one will be of A Good Man, which is a Steven Seagal movie. I did one for Kamui, which is based off a manga. And I have also done written reviews for Revenge of the Drunken Master, Oculus, and and a re-review of Lone Wolf and the Cub, and expect a re-review of Zombie in the near future. So read all of those. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. I am working diligently on critiquing the critics, but I cannot guarantee when it will be up. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I've helped you make your decision as to whether Interstellar is for you or not. And I shall see you guys later.